When we talk about climate change, our minds usually jump straight to the science, right? Carbon dioxide, melting ice caps, solar panels. But what if the most powerful tool we have isn't a new piece of tech, but a political system? Let's dive into this idea, that the fight for the climate might actually be a fight for democracy itself.
First things first, let's talk about a number that really sets the stakes. For 2 years in a row now, we've officially blown past the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold. And look, this isn't some far-off prediction anymore. This is happening right now. And what's really getting scientists worried is the speed of it all. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we were talking about being at 1.2 degrees of warming. Today, the average is already 1.3, and we're seeing peaks that hit that critical 1.5 degree mark. The whole problem is accelerating, and that means the clock is ticking way faster than we thought.
So what happens when that clock runs out? This isn't just about slightly warmer summers. We are talking about fundamental, maybe even permanent, changes to how our entire planet works.
Because once we go past 1.5 degrees for good, we start getting into the scary territory of tipping points, changes that we just can't reverse. Take the Gulf Stream, for example. It's this massive ocean current that basically acts as Europe's heating system. Scientists are warning it could slow down or maybe even break down completely. And the result? Well, believe it or not, it could be an ice age in Europe. That's the kind of massive disruption we're staring down.
Okay, so to fix a problem this huge, we need a really powerful tool. And researcher Noah Maurer thinks we've already got one, we just might not be looking at it the right way. He wants us to think about democracy not just as a way to vote every few years, but as a kind of giant information processing machine.
Here's the core idea. A democracy is basically a system that's designed to suck in massive amounts of data from millions of different places, that's all of us, the citizens, and crunch it all together to find the best possible answer to a problem. It's kind of like a huge decentralized computer, and its one job is to find the truth. This whole thing taps into what's called the wisdom of the crowd. It's a wild concept. For instance, if you get a big group of people and ask them to guess the exact date Julius Caesar died, almost nobody's going to get it right. But and here's the crazy part, if you take all those wrong guesses and find the average, that average will be shockingly close to the real date. Democracy, in theory, tries to do that on a massive national scale.
So how does this democratic machine get its data about climate change? Well, it has all these different inputs. First, you've got scientific institutions giving it the hard, objective data. Then you have the direct experiences of citizens, people on the ground seeing more floods, experiencing crazier heat waves. You've also got a free media whose job is to translate that complex science and broadcast those citizen stories. And then, finally, you have elections. That's the ultimate feedback loop, where people can say, hey, you're ignoring the data, and vote for someone else.
Okay, so this machine sounds pretty powerful, right? But here's the catch. It's vulnerable. It can be sabotaged. It can be deliberately broken.
You can really think of politics as this constant tug-of-war between two totally opposite goals. On one side, you have truth-seeking. That's using data, debate, and strong institutions to find the best solutions for everybody. But on the other side, you have power-grabbing. That's all about consolidating control for one leader or one party, and it often involves attacking the very things that help us find the truth.
And the number one weapon for the power grabbers? Misinformation. It's like feeding corrupt data into the machine. If you can convince enough people that the science is a hoax or that those floods are just normal, then the machine gets it wrong. It's garbage in, garbage out. The whole system starts spitting out the wrong answers, leading to inaction because it thinks there's no problem to solve in the first place.
So let's make this real. We can see this exact tension playing out right now all over the world, just by looking at how different countries are dealing with the climate crisis. On one hand, you've got countries where the democratic machine is working pretty well. Take places like the UK and Germany. There's generally a high respect for science, the data flows pretty freely, and what do you know? They are some of the only major nations that are actually on track to meet their climate goals. The machine is working. And sometimes the feedback loop doesn't even have to come from a lab coat. In places like Spain and Italy, the information is coming straight from the ground up. People are living through more and more floods and disasters, and that first-hand experience is creating this huge political pressure to do something. You could call it frontline feedback, and it can be even more powerful than any scientific report. But what happens when a system is designed to ignore all that feedback? What happens when there are no ways for it to correct itself? This is what Maurer calls a flawed democracy. It's a system where all those tools for self-correction, A free press that can call out lies, fair elections to throw out bad leaders, independent courts have been weakened or totally dismantled. The system isn't trying to find the truth anymore. Its only goal is to keep the people in charge in charge.
And the starkest example of this is Russia. According to the source material, its entire political and economic model is built on denying climate change. The country runs on oil and gas. And this is the really chilling part. It's one of the very few countries on Earth that might actually benefit from a warmer planet, as melting Arctic ice opens up new farmland and new shipping lanes. Why would you ever fix a problem that's actually helping you?
And all of this brings us to the most critical battleground, the place where these two forces, the truth seekers and the power grabbers, are in a head-on collision: the United States. Right now, the American democratic machine is going through a massive stress test. We're seeing attacks on the independence of key scientific institutions, funding being pulled from climate research, an active political movement that rejects climate science, and huge pressure being put on courts and other checks and balances. This looks like a deliberate effort to jam the machine with bad data and break those feedback loops.
So what you end up with is two very different potential futures. For Russia, the author's outlook is pretty pessimistic. Without those self-correcting tools, it's really hard to see how things change course. But for the United States, the view is actually more optimistic. The core belief is that despite all this stress, the democratic institutions, the checks and balances, the free press, the elections, are strong enough to eventually win out and self-correct.
So in the end, the point isn't whether democracy can solve climate change. The argument is that it's the best and maybe only system we have for the job. The real burning question is whether our democratic machines, especially here in the US, can fight off these attacks, process the overwhelming data of a planet in crisis, and fix themselves in time to make a difference. Because that ticking clock we talked about, it's not going to wait.